You don't need to block them, beg them, or explain yourself, because your silence, your peace, and your glow will say everything they tried to ignore. They told you to block them, told you to beg, to explain, to give one last message, just to get closure. But here's the truth. They don't want you to know, my friends. The more you react, the more they relax. The more you chase, the more they retreat. And the moment you stop, the moment you go still and let silence carry your message, that's when everything changes. Hey folks, imagine this. You're at a carnival. There's this loud, flashy game booth. It's yelling your name, throwing lights, making noise, begging you to come play. You go over, toss the rings, press the buttons, win some cheap prize. Fun for a while, but it gets boring. So you move on. Now imagine a booth with no lights, no sound, just a velvet curtain, slightly open. You don't know what's behind it. No signs, no instructions, just mystery. And now you can't stop thinking about it. That's you. That's the secret. When you stop putting your worth on display, when you stop making noise, you become the most unforgettable thing in the room. Because here's what they won't tell you. People don't chase what's obvious. They chase what they can't figure out. They don't regret losing someone who cried for them. They regret losing the one who vanished like smoke and left nothing behind but a haunting silence. That's what messes with them. That's what keeps them checking your page. That's what makes them scroll through old messages like detectives looking for clues. Begging? It's a comfort to them. It tells them they still matter to you. Blocking? It gives them a reason to say, see, they're emotional, they're angry. It helps them sleep at night. But when you do nothing, no block, no text, no goodbye, they have to live with the echo of their own silence. They have to sit with their own guilt, their own regret, their own what-ifs. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. The ocean doesn't have to scream to pull a ship under. Gravity doesn't beg the apple to fall. And you don't need to explain why you're done. You don't owe them that luxury. This is your moment, your transformation, your rise. You're not here to play the game anymore. You're here to rewrite the rules, to stop proving and start moving. You don't block. You let them see you living a life they can't reach. You don't beg. You let them sit in the space where your love used to be, and you don't explain. Because a king or queen never explains why they left the room. They just leave. So from this moment on, say it with me, my friends. I don't chase. Write it in the comments. Make it real. Breathe it in. Own it. And if this hit something inside you, if it stirred that fire they don't want you to find, then like this video, hit subscribe, and stay with me. Because what's coming next, it's going to remind them exactly what they lost. Number 1, don't block them. Make them block themselves. You don't destroy them by closing the door. You destroy them by leaving it open and never walking through it again. Blocking feels powerful, doesn't it? It feels like the final slam of the door, like you're cutting the cord and walking away strong. But my friends, sometimes what feels powerful is just noise dressed as control. And in that noise, you give them something they can understand, something they can explain away. Oh, they blocked me. They're just bitter. They're still emotional. You think you ended the story, but really, you just gave them the last word. Let me take you into their mind. Imagine someone walking through a museum. Every painting is titled, every piece has a plaque with a story. Even the strange ones have explanations. But then, they reach one piece. No title, no description, just raw, haunting silence. And it eats at them. Why? Because the mind craves understanding. And what it can't understand, it obsesses over. That's you, my friend. That's what happens when you don't block. When you let them see everything, but never touch again. Now I know what you're thinking. But won't they think I still care if I don't block them? Won't they think they still have power over me? What if they think I'm waiting? That's the fear talking. That's your emotional survival instinct screaming for validation. Because blocking gives you the illusion of control too. It gives you something to do, something to act on when your world feels shaky. But don't mistake movement for progress. Don't mistake silence for weakness. Because the real flex, the real power, is doing nothing. It's letting them look through the glass and realize they're no longer welcome inside. You see, blocking them gives them a label, blocked. It gives them permission to move on, to write the ending, to place you in a neat little box labeled Angry X. But when you don't block them, when you don't react at all, they sit in uncertainty. They start thinking, overthinking, wondering, panicking. Did I not matter? Are they done for real? Why aren't they mad? Because now there's no label, no story, just an echo of what they lost. And that silence, that's your masterpiece. Now don't get it twisted. This isn't about games. This isn't about pretending not to care. It's about rising so far above the chaos that you stop needing to play at all. It's about reclaiming your dignity without lifting a single finger. It's about realizing that their opinion, their thoughts, their confusion, that's not your responsibility anymore. I know it's hard. I know there's a part of you that wants to block, delete, erase every trace of them, because that feels like closure. But real closure doesn't come from blocking them. It comes from healing within. It comes from walking away so powerfully that they're the ones who have to block you, just to stop the pain of seeing you become someone they'll never touch again. Let them be the one who can't take it. Let them be the one who needs to close the door, because they can't stand seeing the version of you that no longer waits by the window. Let them watch your glow up from the sidelines. Let them scroll through your world and feel like strangers. Let the access stay, but the connection die. Because you don't break someone with noise, you break them with peace. So from this moment forward, don't block them. Let your silence do what no blocked contact ever could. Let them live with the weight of knowing they could reach out, but never will, because now they're not blocked. They're forgotten, not erased, just no longer relevant. Say it with me, my friends. I do nothing. I become unforgettable. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you are no longer feeding into reactions, no longer trapped by fear, no longer afraid to rise above. And stay with me, because what's coming next? Oh, it's going to make them feel the one thing they never expected from you: indifference. Number 2, don't beg. Let them starve in your absence. You don't teach them your worth by begging to stay. You teach them by disappearing and letting them realize what they threw away when they thought you'd never leave. They want you to beg. They want you to chase. They want you to keep explaining yourself over and over, because every time you do, you feed their ego. Every time you reach out, you're saying, "You still matter." And that's exactly why they don't change. That's why they don't regret it. Because you're still right there, holding out your hand, hoping they'll finally get it. But my friends, you're not a preacher. You're not a rescue mission. And your love, it's not a lesson they get to learn at your expense. Let me paint the picture for you. Imagine someone who's used to eating at a buffet. They don't appreciate it. They don't savor it. They pile their plate high, toss things aside, take what they want, leave what they don't. That was your love to them. Free, constant, available. And now, the buffet's closed. No notice, no goodbye, just gone. Now they're hungry. Now they're remembering what they had. And now, there's no table for them, not anymore. That's the power of absence. That's the power of walking away without begging to be understood. Because if they didn't listen when your heart was open, they won't hear you now that it's breaking. And if you have to beg for someone to value you, then the truth is, they never did. They just loved the way your love made them feel, not you, just the attention, the comfort, the certainty. Now I know what's creeping into your mind. But what if I say the right thing? What if this one message is the one that finally wakes them up? That's the hope talking. That's the voice of fear, disguising itself as possibility. Because it's easier to chase them than to sit alone with the reality that they saw your heart wide open and still walked away. Begging gives you a false sense of purpose. It gives your pain a task, but it never gives you peace. See, begging never wins hearts. It only proves to the wrong person that you're still catchable, still available, still desperate enough to explain what they already knew. They knew you loved them. They just didn't care enough to honor it. And here's the lie they sold you. If you don't fight for them, you never cared. But my friend, what if real love is knowing when to stop fighting for someone who keeps dropping their sword? What if the most powerful love you can show is the one you finally give back to yourself? Let me tell you something real. They don't miss you when you cry. They don't miss you when you beg. They miss you when the phone doesn't ring, when their messages go unanswered, when they scroll and realize you're no longer watching their stories, when they check your page and realize they've been replaced by peace. And peace? That's what you give yourself now. This isn't about revenge. It's not about pretending. It's about choosing yourself in a world that told you begging was love. It's about finally realizing that love doesn't need to be proven. It needs to be reciprocated. So stop trying to win someone back who never showed up for you in the first place. Stop writing essays to someone who skipped reading the last chapter of your story. You are not a side character in their script. You are the whole damn book, and now it's out of print. Let them feel the silence. Let them feel the loss. Let them feel the hunger that comes from losing the one person who would have given them everything. If only they had asked instead of expected. Because here's the truth. They won't come back for love. They'll come back for comfort, for control, for access. Don't give it. Don't feed them. Don't water the weeds hoping they'll bloom into something better. Let them dry out. Let them sit in the drought they created. Say it with me, my friends. I don't beg. I walk away. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that your energy is no longer available to people who only show up when they're thirsty. And stay with me, because next we're flipping the script even harder. You think silence was powerful? Wait until you see what happens when they realize they were never in control. Number 3, they only come back when the game isn't fun anymore. As long as they think you're still playing, they'll never take you seriously. But the moment you stop showing up, that's when they panic, because now the game isn't fun anymore. Let's be honest, my friends. Some people don't love you. They just love playing with you. Love isn't the goal for them. Control is. Attention is. And the more predictable you are, the faster you text back, the more you check in, the more you try to fix what they broke. The more they feel like they've got you right where they want you. It's not about connection for them. It's about the chase. And when they feel like they've won, when they sense you'll always come back no matter how far they push, that's when they get bored. That's when they disappear. Not because you weren't enough, but because you were always there. Now imagine this. You're in an arcade. There's that one game, maybe a claw machine. The first time you play it, it's exciting. There's challenge, risk. You want to win. You don't know if you will, but suddenly it starts giving you the prize every time. No challenge, no mystery. It becomes routine. So you stop playing. You move on to something harder, something that feels like a win. But what happens when that same game suddenly breaks? The lights are still on, but now it doesn't work like it used to. Now you're curious again. Now you're frustrated. You need to know why. That's what happens when you stop playing their emotional game, when you stop responding like clockwork, when you don't pick up the phone, when your silence becomes your strongest move. And now the question creeps in their mind. Wait, why aren't they chasing me anymore? Why aren't they reacting? Did I lose control? That's when the panic begins, because they thought they had you figured out. They thought they knew the rules. But now you've walked off the board and the game is broken, and so is their ego. But here's the part that's hard to swallow. You played into it. You kept showing up. You kept responding to their crumbs. You thought maybe this time it would be different. You told yourself, if I just show them I care, they'll change. You fed the machine and called it love. But what you were really doing was giving them a dopamine hit. Little pings of validation. You weren't in a relationship. You were part of a game they were winning. That's why your silence now is a declaration. That's why your absence hits harder than any angry text or emotional paragraph. Because now they don't know how to read you. And people hate what they can't predict. It terrifies them. Because if they don't know what you're thinking, they can't manipulate it. They can't twist it. They can't use it. So what do they do next? They test the waters. A random hey, a post designed to trigger you, a memory dropped just loud enough for you to notice. And if you bite, if you react, they win. The game restarts. But if you stay silent, if you keep walking, you shatter the illusion that they can come back whenever they feel like it. Let them come back to an empty room. Let them text into silence. Let them miss the version of you they took for granted, because that version is gone. You're not here to be someone's emotional toy. You're not here to be their rebound reassurance. You're not the game. You're the exit sign. And the moment they realize the game isn't fun anymore because you stopped playing, is the moment they finally feel the loss. So stop explaining, stop reacting, stop being predictable. Let your silence be the curveball that rewrites the whole story. Say it with me, I don't play games. Write it in the comments, show them, show yourself, show the world around you that you are done being entertainment for someone who never planned to stay. You are peace now. You are power now. And stay with me, because what's coming next? Oh, we're not just taking our power back. We're showing them what it feels like to lose what they thought they could always control. Number 4, you were the prize. They just played too long. They didn't walk away because you weren't valuable. They walked away because they thought your value would wait for them forever. My friends, let's get something clear right now. You were never the problem. You were never too much or too emotional or too available. You were the prize. But the thing about people who play too long is they forget what they're holding until it slips right through their hands. They get bored of winning. They confuse your loyalty with weakness, and they think because you stayed once, you'll stay again. But here's what they didn't expect: you evolving. Imagine this. A man walks into a jewelry shop and sees a beautiful diamond. It's out in the open, no glass, no security, just sitting there. He stares at it, maybe picks it up, admires the sparkle, but he doesn't buy it. Why? Because it's just sitting there, so he walks out, thinking maybe he'll come back later. Now imagine that same man returns, and the diamond's gone. The display case is empty. The lights are dim. There's a note on the door that says, "No longer for sale." And suddenly, he's frantic. Now he wants it more than ever. Why? Because it's not available anymore. That's human nature. We don't value what we have easy access to. We value what we might lose forever. That was you. You were the diamond. But you didn't have glass around you. You gave freely. You stayed available. You believed in them. And they thought that because you were still there, you'd always be there. But you weren't weak. You were loving. You weren't desperate. You were consistent. They just mistook your heart for a doormat until you picked it up, wiped off the dirt, and walked away. And now? Now they're checking. Now they're wondering. Now they're comparing. And nothing feels quite the same. Because no one loves like you did. No one matches your energy. No one makes them feel like home the way you did. And they thought they'd find that again. Easy. But all they're finding now is surface-level distractions and dead-end connections. Because when you were the prize, they played too long. But I know what's going through your head. If I was the prize, why did they leave? If I mattered, why didn't they stay? Why did they choose someone else? Let me break it down for you. They didn't leave because they found better. They left because they thought you'd still be there when they came back. They thought you'd wait. They thought your forgiveness was endless. They thought your value would sit on the shelf until they were ready to choose it. That's the lie they told themselves. That's the lie you believed for too long. But now you're done being shelved. Now you're done being a second thought. Because a real prize doesn't wait to be claimed. A real prize shines, and if it's not appreciated, it moves where it's valued. Let them sit with the version of you they walked away from. Let them choke on the silence of a love they never learned how to hold. Let them scroll through your life from the outside, seeing you glow, seeing you grow, knowing they used to have a front row seat, and they fumbled it. And this is important, my friends. You don't have to prove you were the prize. You just have to stop giving discounts to people who never planned to pay full price. You don't have to show them what they lost. Life will show them. Time will show them. Their own emptiness will show them. So no more questioning your worth. No more asking why they didn't choose you. No more trying to make them see what they failed to value. Because they knew your worth. They just gambled it. And they lost. Say it with me. I am the prize. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you are done auditioning for roles in stories you should have been writing. You're not waiting to be picked anymore. You're choosing yourself. And stay with me, because what's coming next? It's going to remind them that the version of you they lost will never exist again. Number 5. Your peace is their panic. The moment you stop trying to be understood is the moment they start trying to understand why they can't reach you anymore. Peace is quiet. But don't confuse quiet with weakness, my friends. Peace is power in disguise. And the day you choose peace over performance, silence over struggle, stillness over chaos, that's the day everything begins to shift. Not just for you, but for them. Because they were never scared of losing you. They were scared of losing control over how you showed up for them. And once you stop showing up the way they expect, the panic sets in. You used to be the one who broke the silence. You used to be the one who sent that just checking in message, who explained yourself, who made sure they were okay even while you were falling apart. But now, you're still. You're grounded. You're unreachable, not because you're hiding, but because you finally realized your energy is sacred. And that peace, that silence, that absence, it's deafening. Imagine this, a room filled with noise, arguments, excuses, tears, false promises. That was your connection. Chaotic, loud, draining. They got used to the noise, and then it stops. No warning, no dramatic exit, just silence. At first, they enjoy it. They tell themselves they're free, but over time, the silence grows teeth. It starts whispering things to them they don't want to hear. It becomes a mirror they can't avoid. Why aren't they reaching out? Are they over me? Did I mean anything at all? That's when peace becomes their problem. And I know it doesn't feel that way at first. When you go quiet, the fear creeps in. What if they forget me? What if my silence makes them think I don't care? What if they never come back? But let's be real for a second. Did all your noise, the explaining, the chasing, the fixing, ever make them stay? Did your effort ever earn you the respect you deserved? Or did it just make it easier for them to take you for granted? You were predictable. You were reliable. You were always there. And that's why they didn't panic. That's why they didn't value you. Because there's no urgency in something that feels permanent. But peace? Peace makes you unpredictable. It makes them unsure. It makes them uncomfortable. Because people don't spiral when you yell. They spiral when you go quiet. And that's the moment you reclaim everything. Your self-worth, your dignity, your time, your emotional power. You stop being a participant in their drama. You become an observer. You become the calm after the storm. And that calm scares them more than your chaos ever did. Because now they don't know what you're thinking. They don't know how you feel. They don't know if you still care. And that not knowing, that's where their panic lives. That's where the guilt starts tapping on their shoulder at 2 a.m. That's where regret begins to settle in. Not because you told them anything, but because you stopped telling them everything. They expected anger. They expected pain. They expected messages they could ignore and stories they could mute. But they didn't expect your silence. They didn't expect your peace. They didn't expect you to finally stop caring whether they understand you or not. And here's the truth. They don't fear losing you. They fear realizing that you're finally okay without them. So from now on, let your peace speak louder than your pain ever did. Let your silence echo through the parts of them that thought they could always come back. Let your calm be the storm they never saw coming. Because when you stop trying to prove your worth, they have no choice but to sit with their own failure to see it. Say it with me, my friends. My peace is power. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you are no longer moved by chaos, no longer addicted to reaction, no longer giving your soul to storms that were never yours to calm. And stay with me, because next, we're unlocking the most dangerous weapon they never expected. Controlled indifference. And when you master that, there's no going back. Number 6. The secret. Controlled indifference. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference, and nothing breaks them more than realizing you don't feel a thing anymore. My friends, if you really want to flip the power dynamic, if you truly want them to feel what they never expected, you don't scream. You don't post cryptic quotes. You don't fake a glow-up or play games. You master the one thing that confuses them more than anything else: controlled indifference. Not coldness, not bitterness. Control. See, when you're angry, you're still emotionally involved. When you're hurt, they know they still matter. But when you're indifferent, when their name passes through your mind like wind through an open window, unnoticed, unfelt, that's when they feel the emptiness they created. That's when they finally understand what it's like to be nothing more than background noise. Let me give you a picture. Imagine they walk into a room where you're sitting calmly, smiling, sipping your coffee. No tension in your body, no weight behind your eyes. You're at peace. And they, expecting the storm, expecting the tears or the rage, instead find the quiet after the fire. Not the smoke, not the flames, just the ash of what used to be. They don't know what to do with that, because they prepared for a reaction. But you've moved on so far they no longer recognize the version of you in front of them. Controlled indifference doesn't mean you don't care about yourself. It means you've stopped caring about them. Their approval, their attention, their apology. You've outgrown the cycle of craving crumbs from someone who couldn't even recognize the feast you laid before them. But here's what most people get wrong. They try to perform indifference. They fake it. They post pictures with people they don't care about, smile through gritted teeth, blast quotes hoping the right person sees it. But if you're trying to make them notice, you're still in the game. You're still reacting. You're still giving them power. Real indifference doesn't seek attention. It withdraws it. It doesn't announce its presence. It fades quietly into power. Because when you truly don't care anymore, you don't need them to know you don't care. You just live. You just move. You just rise. And trust me, they feel it. They feel it when you don't answer that text. When you stop liking their posts. When they check your story and see nothing. Because they no longer have access to the parts of you they once took for granted. They feel it when they realize they can't predict your next move anymore. That you're no longer on standby, waiting for them to remember you. That you've deleted the script, and they're not part of the next chapter. Now, here's where fear creeps in for most people. What if they think I never cared? What if they move on and forget me? But let me ask you this, did they worry about how you felt when they chose to neglect you? Did they question your worth when they walked away like you were replaceable? No. They expected you to hurt. They expected you to wait. They expected you to keep showing up, heart in hand, but indifference. It rewrites the ending. It forces them to sit in the silence they created and wonder why the music stopped playing. Controlled indifference isn't an act of cruelty, it's an act of healing. It's the moment you finally take your power back, not with loud declarations or dramatic exits, but with stillness, with growth, with peace that doesn't flinch when they enter the room. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable at first. You'll want to respond. You'll want to peek. You'll want to break the silence just to remind them you existed. But you're not here to be remembered. You're here to remember yourself. So don't fake it. Become it. And let them feel the hollow echo of a presence they once thought would never leave. Let them walk through the ruins of what could have been and realize they burned it all down, while you rebuilt something stronger, far from their reach. Say it with me, my friends. I am untouchable. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you are done pretending, done reacting, done handing out your energy like it's cheap. You are still. You are whole. You are in control now. And stay with me, because next, we unlock the moment they start needing you, when the silence you built becomes the loudest scream they'll ever hear. Number 7. When you stop needing them, they start needing you. The second you stop needing them is the moment they start questioning if they ever truly mattered to you at all, and that's when it hits them. Let's break a lie that's been choking you in silence. You think they'll miss you if you hold on longer. You think if you just love them harder, wait a little more, prove your loyalty, they'll finally wake up. But my friends, people don't miss you because you stayed. They miss you when you finally stop needing them, when your silence replaces your obsession, when your self-respect starts screaming louder than your longing. See, the truth is, they felt safe in your need. They didn't fear losing you because you made it clear. You'd always be there. You'd always answer, always care, always wait. You were their emotional security blanket, wrapped in apologies and second chances. They didn't need to fear your absence because your presence was guaranteed. But now you've flipped the script. You've pulled back. You've gone quiet. You've stopped chasing a connection that only drained you. And they're not used to that. They don't know how to handle a version of you that doesn't revolve around them. You've unplugged their supply. You've stopped feeding their ego. And suddenly, the one who used to need them doesn't anymore. Imagine this. You walk into a cafe every morning and the barista knows your name, your order, your story. No matter how late you show up, your drink is waiting. It's comforting, it's reliable, it's routine. But one day, you walk in and the shop is closed. No warning, no explanation, just gone. And now you miss it. Now you remember every little detail. Now you realize what you took for granted. Because the human heart doesn't mourn what's always available. It mourns what disappears without begging to stay. That's what happens when you stop needing them, not pretending, not posting fake happiness, but genuinely not needing them. When your peace is no longer tied to their approval, when your value isn't hanging off their half-baked attention, when your identity is no longer defined by the role they assigned you. But here's where it hurts. You used to need them. You really did. They filled a space. They gave you a feeling. Even if it was inconsistent, even if it was toxic, it was something. And breaking away from that emotional addiction feels like withdrawal. You shake. You question. You miss the pain. Because at least it meant you were still connected. But healing is messy. And freedom? It doesn't come wrapped in comfort. It comes in silence, in loneliness, in strength built in the dark. The day you realize you no longer need the text, the call, the apology, that's the day they start needing to give it. Not because they suddenly love you, but because they've lost the grip they never thought they'd lose. And don't let your mind trick you with this thought. But if I don't show them I care, they'll forget me. No, they'll remember every single day. Because the brain doesn't obsess over what it understands. It obsesses over what it can't explain. And your silence? That's the riddle they can't solve. They expect sadness. They expect anger. They expect the usual pattern: rage, tears, forgiveness, repeat. But when you don't play the game, when you break the loop, when you walk away without a backward glance, they don't know how to process that. And now, they're the ones refreshing the page. They're the ones stalking your silence. They're the ones sitting with the weight of what they lost. And by the time they realize what they had, you'll be somewhere they can't reach. Not because you hate them, but because you've grown. You've outgrown the version of yourself that once believed they were the answer. Say it with me, my friends. I release the need. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you are no longer surviving off breadcrumbs, no longer hoping they'll choose you, no longer tied to the illusion of love that left you starving. And stay with me, because what's coming next? Oh, it's the part that haunts them most. The moment when your mystery becomes their punishment, when you become the question and they never get the answer. 7. Let the mystery of you be the punishment they can't escape. The greatest punishment you can give someone who took you for granted is becoming a question they'll never get to answer. My friends, listen close, because this is where the shift becomes permanent. This is where your power becomes untraceable. Not because you yelled, not because you exposed them, not because you tried to make them jealous, but because you disappeared into mystery. And now? Now they sit in silence, haunted by the version of you they'll never get to understand. See, people expect drama. They expect anger. They expect closure. They've been conditioned by their past, by movies, by messy endings. They thought you'd post something loud, send that last message, maybe even break down and admit you miss them. But what they got instead? Nothing. And nothing is terrifying. Imagine watching a movie. You're glued to the screen. The story's intense. The characters are deep. You feel it building. And then right before the climax, the screen goes black. No credits, no ending, just silence. That story sticks with you. You can't forget it. You can't stop thinking about it. Because the mind can't handle unfinished narratives. That's what you become when you stop explaining. When you walk away without a performance. When you erase the audience and rewrite the story with no narrator. You become the one thing they can't process. A mystery. A what if. A ghost that breathes peace instead of pain. They'll scroll and check. They'll stalk and wonder. They'll sit with old messages and try to read between the lines. And when they realize you're no longer posting for them, no longer dropping crumbs for them to follow, no longer watching their every move, the panic begins. Are they over me? Did I ever matter? Are they talking to someone else? They'll never know. And that, my friends, is the most brutal punishment of all. Because their power came from knowing how to push your buttons. From knowing that one story, one comment, one breadcrumb from them could bring you back. But now, you've cut the strings. They're pulling, but the puppet's gone. And all they're left with is empty hands and 1,000 questions that no one will ever answer. And yes, it'll be hard at first, because you'll want to explain. You'll want to bring clarity. Your heart is wired for truth, for honesty, for making people understand. But this is the moment you realize. They don't deserve understanding. Not from you, not anymore. Because they had all the time in the world to ask, to care, to listen. And they didn't. Let them carry the burden of not knowing. Let them sit in their own silence. Because you've graduated from closure. You've evolved from explanation. You're no longer handing out keys to people who fumbled the door. And no, this isn't about revenge. This is about release. You're not doing it to hurt them. You're doing it because finally you understand your power. And your power doesn't live in loud reactions. It lives in quiet transformation. The kind that can't be seen, but damn, it can be felt. Because here's what happens when you become the mystery. You become unforgettable. Not because you tried to be, but because you simply stopped trying at all. You no longer needed to be seen. And ironically, that's what made you visible in the deepest parts of their mind. You are not a puzzle to be solved. You are not a story to be finished. You are a closed book on a high shelf. And the person who once skimmed your pages now realizes they never truly read you at all. If this spoke to you, like this video, subscribe for more, and share this with someone who needs to hear it.